So, a lot of high achievers think acceptance means giving up. But what if the real problem is that people are exhausting themselves, resisting reality instead of leading through it? Today, we're talking with Paul Crick about what acceptance actually means in practice and how his grace framework helps leaders think clearer, lead better, and stop burning themselves out trying to control everything. So, again, Paul Crick is back, founder of the Framework, and he works with founders and leadership teams who have hit a ceiling, not because they lack ambition, but because something deeper inside the culture, communication, or leadership dynamic is no longer working. His work focuses on helping leaders build healthier teams, stronger conversations, and more sustainable performance without losing themselves in the process. So, Paul, welcome back to the show. I'm excited to talk about acceptance. I don't think I've had a conversation about acceptance in this context before. So, I'm interested to see where this goes.
Thanks for having me, Lisa. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, so excited. So let's start there, I think, because I think most people misunderstand this word. When people hear acceptance, they think of settling, lowering their standards, or perhaps letting things slide. But I don't think that's what you mean at all. So, what are you talking about when you're referring to acceptance in the context of leadership?
I'm talking about facing reality and looking it in the eye and going, okay, this is what's in front of me right now. I may or may not like it. Chances are I probably don't like it if I'm thinking about acceptance because I'm making some kind of decision that says I have some internal resistance in me as to what's happening. Someone's cut me up in traffic. Classic example. Most people listening to this will have had that experience. The acceptance is facing the reality of I got cut up in traffic, not this person is use an expletive of your own choice and has disrupted my day and damaged me in some way and not acknowledged who I am and don't you know who I am and all those kind of questions that run through our mind when we're in that moment of experiencing resistance. And it's often when we get that visceral sense of resistance that we kind of go, I need to develop a way to accept, to face what the reality is. And the reality is a very simple fact. It is you got cut up in traffic. And the way I like to think about it is if you think the classic question often is the glass half full or is it half empty? Acceptance says it's neither. Acceptance says it's a glass with some liquid in it.
Right.
So I don't tell a story. I don't have a narrative running inside me one way or the other. I just face into reality that says, well, if I look at it, the facts of the situation are there's this receptacle that we generalize and we label as glass, and there's some kind of liquid in it that fills it to a certain level in the glass, which may be half full, whatever label we give that, then that's facing into reality of a situation. And I think facing into reality is something that it takes courage to do that because it requires us to unhook the automatic narratives that typically run because we've been conditioned.
Mm-hmm.
We've had that experience before and we're flipping someone the bird because they cut us up in traffic because that's the tape that runs when that happens. We don't take that moment to go, well, maybe his wife's struggling in hospital. Maybe his kid's fallen down at home and broken his leg and the driver's driving fast to get home to deal with that. There's always that, what else could this mean? So very often acceptance starts with a first facing into reality. What are the facts of the situation? And then when we're thinking about the narrative, well, yeah, here's the narrative that would normally run, but what other narratives might be possible? And
Mm-hmm.
that's acceptance. That's acceptance. You may not like it. You may not like it at all. And, there are situations where facing into reality is very, very, very difficult. You think of any of the conflict zones around the world right now. You're not going to be walking through those going, well, I accept this.
Yeah, it's a little bit harder, especially when there's other factors at play. So I literally got cut off in traffic yesterday on my way to a yoga class around lunchtime. And I was a little grouchy, I'm not gonna lie. I
Yeah.
ate a bunch of sugar the night before and I was just kind of just grouchy and I wanted to get to class and I got cut off in traffic and the license plate was actually the last name of someone that I absolutely adore. And so at first I was kind of really annoyed, but then I saw the license plate and I just started laughing. And then I sent this person a message and I said, "You'll never believe what just happened." And I hadn't talked to this person in so long. But you're right, my initial narrative was like, oh, the nerve of this person. But then all of those other things popped into my mind. And I'd rather save my sanity and my nervous system than getting worked up over something so small. But sometimes we forget that, especially if we're tired or burnt out or on a sugar high. There's so many different factors.
This is
But
why we
I
call it the
feel
work. It
that's the
takes
work.
work. That's the work. And it is a process of slow learning. And what I mean by
Hmm.
slow learning is you actually have to unpick it, and you have to go to a place of what's known as metacognition. Metacognition is word salad, or a posh word for the ability to see yourself dancing on the dance floor.
Hmm.
Normally, we're just dancing and we're experiencing the dancing on the dance floor. But if you can float out of your body up onto the balcony overlooking the dance floor and look at yourself, that's metacognition. It's thinking about how you think. And that's the practice. And it's a slow practice. I'm working with a group right now, and we're doing a series of learning loops. And each learning loop takes 2 weeks. And the first learning loop was journal what triggers you. When you get triggered, just write it down. What time of day, which day, what was it? And then share it. And the reason we share it is because when we do a peer learning review, we have everyone come together that's on the cohort, and we go, so what triggers you? And then you go around the room, and what people notice is people are very similar. It's like, oh, we're all human. We all get triggered by similar. Oh, I'm not so different after all. Okay, you suffer for. Well, that's interesting. So that's the first learning loop of 2 weeks. And then we move into 2 weeks and go, okay, so if that's what triggers you, what judgments do you make? In other words, what narrative goes? What's the narrative that automatically fires? It's like you and I will remember old tape recorders, that had buttons to play a cassette tape. And
Yeah.
it's like someone's pushed play without you knowing. And all of a sudden there's music from somewhere and you're going, what the hell's that? Where did that come from? And you're playing a tape without realizing that you've hit the play button. So what's that narrative? What's that judgment that you're making? Don't make the judgment. Just say what it is. Face into the reality of what is that judgment? What are the words you're using that are judging that other person that come to mind because you've been triggered by something? That's the second learning loop. And again, you come together and you go, so what judgments do you make? And it's like, oh, you do that too. And then we all laugh because we all make similar judgments about similar things. Because guess what? That's the culture we grow up in, and we've learned it from various people, places, media, stories, parents, churches, community organizations, you name it. And then we do a third learning loop that says, if that's the trigger and that's the judgment, what's the behavior? And people go, oh, okay, I don't know what's the behavior. And then we do another peer learning review and we go, so you've got these triggers, what are you seeing in behaviors? And the behaviors are all similar. They're different, but they're similar enough. And all the time through this learning loop process, we're facing into this reality of our messiness as human beings, as our layered responses that are almost automatic.
Hmm.
They happen so quick, we don't even think about it. Because if we had to think about it, everything would slow down. If you think about getting out of bed every morning, I guarantee you get out of bed the same way almost every morning, if not every morning. And if you had to think about that, you're kind of lying in bed and you go, okay, I'm in bed, I need to get out. What do I do first? Okay, I look at the ceiling and I turn my head this way, and then I kind of ease up on my left arm. And if you did that, it'd take you hours to get out of bed every day because you have to relearn it every day. And so
Right.
we've automated that response. And it's the same when we're triggered. So this facing in reality, when you unpack it, has quite a number of elements to it, which become the work. Because you say words like, you need to do the inner work. And people go, well, what's that? And you go, well, it's this. What's triggering you? What are your judgments? What behavior? And is that behavior helpful? Does that get you a result that you want? Because if the meaning of our communication is the response we get, that tells you all you need to know. Did you get a good response? Did you get a bad response? If you didn't get the response you want, there's something in the communication. And the communication probably comes from our behavior. And our probably behavior comes from some judgment and some trigger or some automated process where we're not accepting the reality that's in front of us. We're resisting it. That makes
What
sense?
about if we're with somebody? So what if I was in traffic yesterday and someone was with me, but I was the one who was super calm, getting cut off, but that person reacted? Because I find that when I am using grace and acceptance and I'm with someone else who's not, I feel like that's a trigger for me. And not in a negative way, but I'm like, why did you have to do that? Because you're kind of ruining my vibe, right? So then I have to try and get them to go towards acceptance and kind of teaching them. But sometimes I don't want to do that. And so I think a lot of
So
people
don't.
especially in leadership. They work with groups of people and everyone's got different personalities and everyone's triggered at different times. So how do we use acceptance in situations like that?
So, if you've got someone with you, it's one-to-one. So that's easy. And acceptance is simply to face the reality that the other person reacted, you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
The question becomes, what caused enough discomfort within you to want to, I'm going to use the word interfere. That I don't mean it pejoratively, but interfere and try to fix them.
Right.
They didn't need fixing. And the extreme example of this is alcoholism. Now, I know some people listening to that will be going through that experience of being a relative or knowing someone that is, and watching the misery for that person in terms of physical health, mental health deterioration, and the impact that has on the people and the community around them.
Right.
And there's an expression in AA which is detached with love. And that's acceptance. Non-acceptance is running around trying to hide all the bottles, trying to find where all the bottles are hidden and throwing them out and going, don't do this. You promise not to do this. And, I'll take all the bottles away and, just promise me you won't drink. And that doesn't work. So you have to detach with love and face the reality and make some decisions about what you are. And this is the bit where you don't roll over. The rollover would be, oh, okay, you're going to do it again tomorrow. You're going to do the same thing. Okay, I'll roll over and I won't try and hide. I'll do what I normally do. I'll try and hide the bottles. I'll try and find where they're hidden and get rid of them. Detached with love is the sit down conversation, which is, I love you. I am sorry to see the choices that you are making that seem to be damaging your health, and you seem unable to change the pattern of wanting to consume alcohol to a point where it seems to be physically damaging and mentally damaging to you. I am here for you at a pin drop when you're ready to make a decision to stop drinking. And I will support you through that by guiding you to people that can help you. I'm not going to rescue you. I love you, but I am stepping away and I am distancing myself enough to protect myself, to maintain my boundary, to maintain my equanimity, to maintain my balance. Because from that position, I can actually do more good because I'm looking after me and I'm taking responsibility and control for the things I can control. That's facing into reality.
Right. And that makes sense. Non-reactive.
And it's the same in teams. It's kind of like, okay, the difference is when you call it out and how you call it out and how you have that facing into reality conversation, because that's what people would describe as tough conversation or a difficult conversation, which is to face the reality of a behavior that doesn't conform or an agreed set of norms and values, that have been agreed non-negotiable by the team. So you've done all this work to say, what are our non-negotiables? How are we going to show up? When are we going to show up? If we're going to be punctual, what does punctual mean? Does it mean 15 minutes before? Does it mean on the hour? Does it mean punctual means we start at 15 minutes after the hour, but the first 15 minutes is all about we get into groups and we do a genuine catch up. How are you? What's going on? How's the kids? What's going on with you? What is that definition? And then we write that down and we agree it and we go, that's our non-negotiables. And we keep adding to that list as it becomes important to deal with that. If we have people that don't hold to that, say we group now, and it's funny because we keep talking about standards. We kind of go, these are the agreed standards that we want to adhere to as we go through this program. Does everyone sign up to that? Yeah, everyone signs up to that. Awesome. And we have a peer accountability review where everybody is going to sit down and you go, so how are we doing against our standards? And then they're going to give each other feed forward. So they're going to have that facing into reality conversation. And it's not comfortable. And the idea is if we normalize that, we say, so if we don't give feedback, we give feed forward.
Mm-hmm.
And we count it in language like, so what I'm noticing is, and the story I'm telling myself about what I'm noticing is this, and I'm quite happy to be wrong. But the piece of advice and guidance and suggestion I have for you is this. And the only response from the other person is allowed is thank you. They can't be defensive. They can't do this. And there's different variants of that piece of work. There's a thing called perceptual positions where you can work in pairs and you can facilitate a process to explore how people are behaving and then take an independent third party view and go, so now you've seen this, what do you notice about each other? And then there's kind of like a lowering of the waterline and go, oh yeah, well, yeah. And that's how you face into reality. You can do it in conflict situations in workplace where you explore the conflicts by having a debate. And you go, right, this part of the debate is going to be in this side of the room and everyone's going to take part and they're going to express all the feelings about why this thing can work or is okay or is good or is better. And then once we've done all that and we've exhausted all that and we've checked that, we're all going to go over to the other side of the room and we're going to go, these are all the reasons why this sucks. And we don't like it. And this is why it won't work. And this is why it's not better. And this is why we don't want it. And this is why we resist. And then we come back into the middle and go, okay, so now you've heard all that. Where are you? And then people will get, if you're in favor, go to this side. If you're not in favor, go to that side. And then you say, so let's take it step by step. Take a step forward if you are interested in coming over to the side of acceptance. And inevitably in a group, someone will do that. Okay. So, okay, great. You've taken a step forward. What caused you to choose to take a step forward? Well, I like the debate. And I like the fact that I was listened to and I was heard. Great. Okay. So what else has to happen for you to either take another step or to come all the way over to this side? And they'll express that and they go, and then you talk to this side and you go, so if we compromise and give this person that, is that okay? And then you'll get some yes, some no, some balance. If there's 6 people left on this side and there's 10 on this side, you may get 4. And you go, so do we agree that the majority, for the purposes of this exercise, we're going to go with the majority? We accept you don't like it, but we have to reach a point where it's like decide and commit, even if you disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Have we exhausted all the opportunities and faced into reality of this in a way that's open, grown up, and explored, and everybody feels seen and heard? And if you get nods, you kind of go, I'm not sure what else we can do. We can either
Right.
choose to stay stuck, and you're welcome to do that because this isn't about me. You can choose to stay stuck, or you can choose to move forward. What does the group want to do? Show of hands. And then people will either move forward or they won't. But that's a facing into reality. That's an acceptance of self, but it's also an acceptance of other. It's an acceptance of someone else has a different opinion or a different way of being to you. Lord knows we need that right now.
Yeah, I think it's the most important part of all of that is how you clearly define what it is you're trying to achieve. And so having a list of the non-negotiables and then holding people accountable to them. That's
And
the most
holding them
important piece.
capable as well. Part of the problem with
Yeah,
accountability is it's kind of like, I think it's quite tyrannical to say, I hold you accountable.
right.
What is more human is to say, I hold you capable
Hmm.
and accountable. That means I
And
know
then as
you.
the leader, doing all those things and
Mhm.
holding the integrity and taking the lead and living and breathing that.
And that, yeah. And that's why leadership practice is tough, because you have to get yourself to a place where you kind of go, yeah, I know I get triggered. I'll never not be triggered. I'm not some saint sat on a cloud somewhere, but I know that when I'm triggered, I know what's going on. I know I've got a framework that can take me through. Okay, what's the judgment? Okay, the judgment, where did that come from? Okay, what's the behavior? Is that constructive? No. What do I need to do differently? And how do I then express that through my behavior and my patterns of language? How do I genuinely apologize for jumping to the wrong conclusion? How do I genuinely apologize for committing to something and then not doing it when the standard is you keep your promises? I'm really sorry. I am human and I am messy and I did drop the ball. And I'm sorry I let the team down. Here's what I'll do because it becomes, is it a rupture of trust or is it a rupture of competence? Is it competence that needs to be repaired, or is it trust that needs to be repaired? And then that dictates how you behave and what patterns of language you'll use to repair that slight tear in accepting and that group cohesion.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have built their lives around the idea of pushing harder, controlling outcomes, and staying on in a sense. But eventually that stops working, and sometimes not by choice, but because you just can't function that way.
Well, let me show you. Yeah, if you hold your hand up to the camera so that
Yeah,
everyone can see it. Everyone can see it. I'm going to hold my hand up to the camera. I'm going to cover your hand. Now let's push. Let's push towards each other. Yeah. What's happening? Nothing. Yeah. And as long as
right.
we stay here, it persists. So something has to give. And then the question comes to who goes first and why should I go first?
Hmm.
To which the answer is, why shouldn't you?
And then all of
Because,
that resistance is preventing everything on the outside from functioning
yeah, there's no
in
flow.
flow.
Yeah.
There's no
And
flow.
as soon as if I was to go first, you would come towards me. You couldn't not.
Hmm.
If I step out of the way, if I take my hand out of the way, if you're pushing so hard against my hand and I take it out of the way, you'll fly right past me. Now,
Right.
I don't want to hurt you, so I'll make sure that when you fly right past me, I catch you and that's okay. But I went first. and I have to go first
Mm-hmm.
because the more flexible I am, the more the system stays in balance. The less flexible I am, the more stuck the system is. Yeah, you could argue, oh, well, that's a different sort of balance. Yeah, but it's not a constructive balance. It doesn't move us forward in a direction we want to go. It doesn't help us with getting to outcomes that we want to get to. So go first.
Right. Oh, I love that. I love that. So why do so many leaders, do you think, confuse pressure with productivity?
Because that's what they've been taught.
Mm-hmm.
I think also people have an energy profile. Have you ever seen someone struggling? Let's say, I don't know, you're in the shopping mall, you're in the supermarket, and you've seen someone drop a bag of
Mm-hmm.
fruit. Now, there's some people that just walk past, and there's other people whose immediate reaction is to help. They feel compelled. They have an internal pressure that says, my moral compass says when I see someone, I feel compelled energetically to respond to help that because I don't like to see someone else in distress. So everyone has a different energy profile, and none of it's right and none of it's wrong. If you're not compelled to help, that doesn't make you a bad person. It just means, again, facing into reality, you're just not someone that naturally helps people, and that's okay. So I think there's different energy profiles as to how you want to respond to that. But so they have been taught that pushing and pushing and pushing is how you make progress. But as we've just said with the hands exercise, if you keep pushing, you don't allow life to live you. You're trying to control life. And I have really bad news for everyone. You can't control life, much as we try, much as we're seduced into thinking, oh, I did this and I got that and I won the deal and, what have you. Really? Think about it, unpick it. Was it really all you? Well, chances are it wasn't. Maybe you
Mm-hmm.
had a hand in it. That's great. So I think it's how we're educated. We're told to strive for good grades because if you strive for good grades, you can then get into college, a good college. And then when you get to college, strive for good grades so that you can get a really good job. And then when you go to a job, you strive to do well at the job because you want more seniority, you want more money, and you want more markers of success. Because markers of success says I am enough.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of leaders, not all, but a lot of leaders, if you look at the story of where they came from, particularly certain generations, again, it's a generational thing. You'll see that move. The younger people don't quite have the same thing, but my generation very much was all about, we get a good job, get a good job, get well paid, buy a house, get married, save your pension, and then you can live your life. It was the when then trap. And I think younger people are much more, no, I'm going to live my life now. And we're going to make the rules differently because the rules don't make sense to us. And that's a good thing because they don't make sense to me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I can't prove this, but I think it's a balance between us living life and allowing life to live us and accepting that will happen. And there's the principle of Wu Wei, where sometimes, we're supposed to be in balance, but actually we can't be in balance because sometimes life's good and sometimes life presents challenges. Our job is to flow with it.
Mm-hmm.
There's different ways of looking at it. Yeah, the Buddhist view says all life is all suffering. It is all about suffering. When you accept suffering, you come to a place of peace. Different perspectives, different lenses. I suspect probably different doors, different colored doors, but they probably all lead to the same room. And I think it's something, however you choose to express it, the way I choose to express it is allow life to live you and face
Right.
into the reality of that. And when you do, you tend to flow better. And the more difficult bits seem to pass quicker. You can't avoid them, but they do seem to pass quicker. And when life is good, life's good.
I'd like to ask you about the cost of avoidance. So, because you work with founders and leadership teams, what do you think the hard conversations are that people avoid that quietly are damaging organizations over time?
I think it's the different stages. So if you're late Series A, you've gone from a culture where you are the culture, you the founder of the culture. You know everyone by name. You're able to do the 2 pizza meeting and a beers. It's all that good stuff. And then as the company grows, you get your first hire, and you go, who the hell's that? And someone will say, oh yeah, it's so and so. We hired them, and they work in this. And then you suddenly get that. This isn't my company anymore. That's a challenge, and it's the challenge of when you're late Series A. It's the challenge of prevention, which is to anticipate this is going to happen. To anticipate that you as a founder will move from being a doer to being an architect of systems and processes that scale the business. And that's hard to do because as you're scaling, you're working hard. You've got funded, you're going through the money, you're going, things are going well, you're starting to grow. Everybody's push because we want to get to Series B. And it's a really positive environment until you get to Series B. And then you go, how the hell did we end up with it? Why are things going wrong? is it me or is it the team? Which is it? Because I don't know. And the true answer is it's probably a bit of both.
Mm.
So as we make these being preventative is really difficult, because if you say to a founder, I want you to spend 30K on deliberately and mindfully developing your culture, putting things in place that when you go to Series B means Series B will work. And you go, no, I want another 2 developers. I can get 2 or 3 developers for that. And I need developers because I need, okay, I'll see you in Series B. And it's like dealing, you kind of want to do an ounce of prevention because it saves a world of trouble afterwards, because it takes a long time to unpick. So for a 50-person business, and the formula for this is on my Substack. So I invite anyone who disagrees with my numbers to go, you're probably right, but take the formula and plug your own numbers in and see what you get, because I suspect it's probably more than I'm going to tell you. But for a 50-person business, the cost of misalignment, the cost of miscommunication, and the cost of unresolved conflict adds up to about $250,000 a year in hidden opportunity cost. It's the cost of losing people and rehiring them, rehiring replacements. It's the cost of redoing work because people didn't understand that what you wanted was a tire, not a steering wheel. It's the cost of, an argument that's simmered forever and people aren't talking and they're kind of being childish about how they do it. I don't want to talk to them. They flicked my ear at a meeting, and that dealt with my dignity in a way that means I don't respect them anymore. I don't want to work with them. I don't, there's that tension and conflict. And all the time,
Right.
time's ticking away. Everyone's going, hello, we're trying to pitch for the next round of funding. Can we, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to talk to them. I don't accept, I'm not willing to face into reality. And so there is a compelling financial cost. And whilst the cost isn't linear, so you can't say for 100 people, it's double that. It doesn't quite work like that, I'm sure, in practice. But let's assume that it does increase. Then, by the time you get to 200 people, the opportunity cost could easily be, around the $1 million mark. I did a
Right.
rough calculation for Capgemini North America because I was looking at that. I just looked at the number. Again, I just plugged it through the formula. I know the formula's pretty much right. And it was costing them $18 million a year. And you go,
Wow.
wow, you should
Is
think
that
about,
unresolved tension at the
yeah,
top, or is that
all through the
just throughout the whole
organization.
organization?
No, but leaders bring the weather. So
Right.
be,
I was going to say, how does the tension that's unresolved at the top affect everyone underneath?
they copy, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're visible, and everyone else is looking to them to go, how do we behave? What do we do? How do we look good? How do we position ourselves for our next promotion? How do we position ourselves to do that? How do I build the group of people under me? How do I get my bonus? All those kinds of things. I get signals from over here because they're the ultimate arbiters of whether I succeed or not. And therefore I'm taking cues from them and I'm telling stories about that may not necessarily be true.
Right.
The CEO says, I've got an idea. And what happens next is it's implemented a week later. And you go, what's this? And you go, no, it was just an idea. I just wanted to talk about it. So it's kind of like kids and parents. Kids copy their parents until the parents are willing to guide them and say, no, I don't need you to copy. I need you to engage and I need you to understand. I need you to learn and I need you to help and all that sort of stuff. So this is this miscommunication thing. It's kind of like, and it's contagious. The neuroscience says it's contagious. If I walk in a mood, everyone goes, oh, they can pick up on it straight away.
Totally. Yeah.
And if they're not willing to
Absolutely.
face into the reality of that and get curious and go, okay, if there's a trigger, boss walks in, looks like he's in a bad mood. Judgment is the boss is in bad mood. Behavior, I'm going to play not to lose
Mm-hmm.
instead of playing to win. I'm going to protect myself in some way. I'm going to stay out of the way so that I don't get questioned, called out, shouted at, asked to take on
Right.
extra work, all that stuff. I am playing not to lose. Well, if you're going for extra funding, do you think that's a good strategy?
Nope.
And do you think that's contagious? Yeah, hell it is. Absolutely it is. Because everybody looks to
Mm-hmm.
everyone else and goes, oh, and we are social beings and we are wired to connect, and our interpersonal neurobiology, you can walk past someone, you can, our energy fields extends out of the heart, electromagnetic fields extends outside our body. Consequently, we know when someone's off. We can say,
Yeah, we can feel it for sure.
yeah. And then everybody goes, am I safe? Again, we're still animals. We still think the world is full of saber-toothed tigers. Is this going to kill me? I'm going to stay safe.
Hmm.
I'm not going to stick my head up. I'm going to play not to lose. And that's the challenge that these teams face, is how do you create an environment where it's normal that you can have face into reality type conversations,
Hmm.
because people don't come into work and go, you know what, I'm going to behave really badly. I'm going to do my work really poorly, and I'm going to make other people's lives miserable. Nobody walks into the workplace at the beginning of the day with that mindset.
No, that's very, very true. So I'm curious then, Paul, the nuance that I want people to understand is that people can mistake acceptance as passivity. So what is the difference?
The difference is you're willing to face into reality, and you pick your moment to have the
Right.
conversation that needs to be had, to say, to get curious. So I sit down with someone. I was triggered by this. I'm going to own this trigger. I'm also going to own the story about the judgment I make. And I behaved in this way, and I think I got it wrong. Can we have a conversation about what went on, so I understand what was happening for you? Because I don't like behaving this way. I don't think it's helpful. And I think by understanding it, it'll help me understand how to reframe what was going on for me, so I could learn when I'm triggered by something similar again, which probably will happen, that I will respond in a different way. So I will not play to lose, I'll play to win. I go, oh, I recognize that. That's that. Even to the point where you can have the conversation and say, just being triggered. It's okay. Everything's fine. I know I've been triggered, and it's good. It's okay. I'm okay. That's
So
just
then
help.
how do people know when they're reacting emotionally versus responding consciously, like in those
They can feel it.
situations?
They can usually feel it in their body.
Hmm.
So tightness of throat, the sympathetic nervous system is usually activated. Breathing high in the chest. They may find that sort of their throat tightens, or it dries up, or it's a bit, you got a frog in the throat because you can't get out what you need to get out. You're breathing high, maybe you're sweating a little bit. You just feel uncomfortable. You don't feel comfortable in your skin, or you're looking for an exit. It's like, I just don't want to be here. Or you've checked out. You're down at the phone. You're down at the phone, or you're looking out the window. You've checked out of being present.
Right. Yeah,
Am
that's a
I
huge
present?
indicator.
Yeah. Am I present or not? Or have I got, where have I gone to? Because I know I'm not here. And someone may say to you, are you still with us? Are you
Right.
listening?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you listening? And you can spot it. Other people can spot it in you, but you can spot
Hmm.
it. Usually you've dropped to a phone, caught an email message out the corner because you've got your laptop up to it. Oh, I'll just have a quick look. And then you check out.
Hmm.
And you check out because you don't want to face reality that what just happened is uncomfortable, because we feel it in our interoception. Our body tells us, don't like this, doesn't feel safe for some reason. It doesn't mean you're going to die. It just means this doesn't feel good. Someone said something that I'm kind of like, don't like. So I'll check out for 2 seconds. I'll go look at the phone. And you see it in meetings. Someone will flip their phone over, have a quick look at the screen, flip it back over. Or they'll take it into the lap, and then they're gone.
Yeah, we've all seen that definitely happen for sure.
But we've
Get
all
into
done
an
it.
elevator with one other human being and see who
Yeah.
pulls out their phone first.
Yeah, no,
People are
exactly.
so
And
uncomfortable.
yeah, it's because we're uncomfortable. We're uncomfortable in being in close proximity with people,
Hmm.
because it doesn't feel good. We don't feel safe. We don't feel safe looking someone in the eye and going, hi, how are you today?
Right.
And even if someone does that, we're kind of like, why did you speak to me? That's really uncomfortable. I now will look at the floor. Now I'll look at my phone, and I'll say
Right.
something. I'll say something out of the side of my mouth, that because I don't want to be rude, but I don't want you to talk to me. Come to
Yeah.
London. Come to London and ride a tube. Nobody looks at anyone. Nobody talks. If you start talking to other people, they know you're from the north of England. You're far too friendly. And you're far too dangerous. I'm kidding.
I'm a Canadian and we're so friendly, like overly friendly. So we would probably terrify everybody there then.
Yeah, yeah, probably.
So then give the audience some tips or shifts that they can make immediately that could create more of a grounded leadership when it comes to acceptance.
Well, the first step is to ground yourself. Because you have
Hmm.
to get ground. If your body's already taken over, it's almost too late. If you've got that feeling of discomfort, so you know, taking taking a breath, doing some box breathing, just deep breathing to get you connect to the ground. Feel your feet connect to the ground. If you're sitting, feel yourself connect to the chair. Notice 5 things. Notice 3 things that you're grateful for. You don't have to say them out loud. It's like, what am I grateful for? If I'm feeling uncomfortable, what am I grateful for? Because often that produces a shift. but get into your body in whatever way you can. Breathing's a great way to do it. Feeling your body, doing a body scan. Don't close your eyes and go om, but you can actually do a mental body scan of a white light passing from the crown of your head all the way through your body, just to feel where your body is, and that'll start to bring you back. And it should bring you back enough to say, how am I facing? What reality am I not facing? Or float up to the balcony and see if you can observe yourself. Maybe there's somewhere in the room that you can go stand in a corner and go, if I look at myself sitting in the chair in this meeting, what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
It sounds a bit woo-woo, but actually it's really possible. And when we start doing that, you go, oh, that's interesting. And then asking yourself the question, so what am I willing to do differently right now?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, so what, after the awareness piece, then what?
Well, you're present. And when you're present, you're then open to whatever happens next. You're open to allow life to unfold, whatever happens next. So if you're in a meeting, you're listening to a conversation, and you go, I'm really curious. I wonder what's going to happen next.
Mm-hmm.
I may not have something to say at this point. Normally, one of my defenses would be to argue with someone or to make a contribution, to make it that's noise, because I want to be seen and heard. It doesn't materially always necessarily contribute to making progress. I just make a noise so that people know I'm still here, and also to make me feel better. Because if I hear the sound of my own voice, I'm going to go, oh, I'm still here. It's okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that desire to be seen and heard.
Yeah. And if I'm present, I'm open to, I wonder where this is going to go. This sounds interesting. I'm listening. I'm playing to win. Well, I don't need to speak to make a contribution. I just need to be present, because sometimes that's enough. You think of coaching conversations, silence. Silence is often the most powerful contributor to that conversation.
Yeah.
There are uncomfortable moments of silence. You can sit for a minute and a half, which seems like an eternity. And then suddenly the person in front of you will say something, and you go, oh, that's amazing. I was
Thank
thinking.
God you spilled the silence.
Well, there's that, but there's also usually
But it allows for the creativity. I get it. I was making a joke, but you're right. It allows for that time to actually process and be present and think without filling silence for no reason. Because humans like to fill silence for no reason.
And we all think at different speeds. There's some people that think really fast, and I do it. My wife jokes with me. She says, Paul, you pick up a rugby ball and you run down the field, nobody's with you, and then you get to the end zone and you turn around looking for people, and then you look down and you go, oh, it's not a rugby ball, it's a white furry rabbit. and it's just because I've got this approach to thinking, which is pretty fast, and it doesn't always serve me. So I have to learn that as I sense I'm about to go down the field, I go, no, I need to stop. I need to listen and then share a view at the appropriate point.
Yeah, slow down. I can relate to that. I'm pretty much the same way.
And these sound like insignificant changes in behavior and language patterns, but they actually take a tremendous amount of work, for want of it, because you've got to sit there and unpick it, and you've got to sit there and, if you can't unpick it, you might sit down with someone that does help you unpick it, who gets curious about, so when you do that, what causes you to do that? Where did you learn to do that first? How does it serve you to do that? Oh, it keeps me safe. Okay, great. How else could you feel safe? I don't know. Want to do something, then you can do some thinking experiments and start to get people thinking in different ways. You go, oh, that's interesting. I'd never thought of that. I said to someone the other day, I said, have you ever sat down with a person that you're in conflict with and asked them what it is they need? They went, why would I do that? I said, well, have you ever thought that their behavior is just an expression of a need that's not being met yet? Do you know, I've never thought of it like that. And you go, bingo, try it, see what happens. It's an experiment. I can't predict whether that's the right answer or not, but it's a different way of being that may or may not produce a better result. And it's facing into reality. It's facing into the reality that actually you may not know all the answers.
Exactly.
And it's facing into reality that something else might be going on for this person besides you.
Yeah, we all think the world revolves around us at times.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
So all these are little things. And each one, it's like learning to lift weights. You start at a low level. Lots of us jump in and we go, I'm going to put the peg in here because I think I can do this. And we get to about the 5th rep and we go, no, I need to take the peg out and lower it. I can't do as much as I thought I could. And that's what the work's like. It's kind of like, you think, oh, this is easy. I can do that. Yeah, I can change 4 behaviors at once. And you go, can you? Okay, let's see how that goes. And then you go, maybe I need to slow things down, work on one thing at once and get to a point where I practice. Much like you practice riding a bike. First time you get on, you fall off. You fall off several times more. Then eventually it starts to come as you practice more and more to the point where you can ride a bike. And you go,
Hmm.
right, now I'm going to practice something else. I'm going to learn to ride a skateboard. Good. Okay. Same thing. Get on the skateboard, you fall off. And that's what the work feels like. If you're willing to be patient and to slow it down and be willing to explore and get curious about, I wonder why I do the things I do. What's it like when I float up to the balcony and I watch myself dancing on the dance floor? Is it as cool as I think it is, or am I dad dancing?
Paul, I'd love for you to tell everyone more about the GRACE framework that you developed. So, what problem is this framework designed to solve?
The knowing doing gap. So if I asked you what's emotional intelligence, this thing that is quintessentially required to be a good leader, everyone would tell me some form of an answer that says, well, when you get a stimulus and a response, between stimulus and response, there's a gap. And the longer the gap is, the greater the opportunity we have to make choice. And I go, great, that is the right answer. Show me how you do it. And everyone
Right.
goes, do you know, I'm not sure. And you go, oh, okay. So Grace Framework really is a way of unpicking how you do what you do and then rebuilding it. If what you do isn't working for you, or if what you do is you've only got one response and you want greater flexibility. And it's the how to, it's getting underneath this abstract idea of emotional intelligence that everybody gets at a cognitive level. They can explain it. But when it comes down to, so unpick it, and what are the actual skills you do? What are the reps you do to get better? And then the Grace framework gives us a way of doing that. I mean, it's just a framework and it's a lens. It's just a series of connections I've made through my life of 22 years in professional consulting and 8 years of Aikido practice that kind of go, actually, when I string it together and I look at the science that sits behind it, this does hang together pretty well. It's not a linear model. It's not do it my way. It's not, I made 50 million using this framework. You can do it too. Follow what I do. It's not that. It's here's a framework that you can use. Here's how you can use it. But how you use it is up to you. I'm not going to tell you. I can guide you. If you come to me with an issue, I go, okay, so are you grounded? What are you not accepting? Where's your, R is for resolve. What is the resolve? What's your intention? Is there a positive intention here? And if you're in those places, so what are you trying to create? Where is the tension? Where is the edge? If creation is a mix of the ethereal struggle with the invisible meets the hard edge of reality and then becomes, we then shape it into something, where are you in that process? And, what are you not accepting that's blocking you? And then the embody piece is do the reps. What do you need to do to get used to this new set of behaviors, new set of language patterns that create a greater flow for you and better outcomes. That's what Grace Framework is.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. So many people, like you said, they know things, but they don't embody them. And so another thing we've been trained to do is know things and have the answer correct. But we've never been taught how to live like that. And so I think that that's what makes your framework so powerful is the embodiment piece. That's what I was missing when I was in my personal development 10 years ago, in my 30s. And one day it clicked. I'm like, I'm not embodying this. I know everything, or I think I know everything in regards to this subject, but I'm not actually living that way. And
Well,
then it's funny how
it's like doing a
things start
yoga
shifting.
practice. Yeah, it's like doing a yoga practice and going, I've read all the books and I've watched all the videos, so I know yoga. And you go, no, until you get on the mat and you start doing the positions and the poses and practicing them, you don't know yoga.
Yeah, it makes you look at it in a full new light.
Yeah, it does. Pick your thing: yoga, martial arts, riding a bike, whatever it is. Until you. I remember there's Hans Zimmer's current guitarist Guthrie Govan, and Guthrie has this expression. He says, "Embodiment is the ability to do something before you think about it. It's the
Hmm.
ability to practice it enough that you do it anyway, and you don't think about it. And that, in a way, is letting life come through us."
So, Paul, before we wrap up, if there is one thing you could leave the audience with about leadership, acceptance, and growth, what would you say?
Ask yourself the question, what is the reality I am not willing to face into in this moment yet? And that will open the gateway to the thing that is you need to accept. Yeah. And the easy one is go look in a mirror. This is a Mel Robbins exercise. Go look in a mirror, stare at yourself in the mirror and smile, but look into your eyes in the mirror and see if you can hold that gaze for 30 seconds. That takes practice and it's the first step to self-acceptance. Occasionally I will notice how slack my skin is becoming. and thinner it's becoming. And my first instinct is to go, oh God, that's horrible. And my next reaction is, oh no, that's how it's supposed to be. And that's beautiful. And then I stay with it and I notice what's happening with my skin. And I'm grateful for it. If I can see the condition of my skin as it is for what it is, I can accept and instead of avoiding it, go, how do I embrace this process of getting older? Because I'm not done yet, you know?
I just love this conversation so much. Thank you so much for enlightening us with your definition of what acceptance really is. Acceptance to me is really helpful to the nervous system because you learn that you can't control everything and that life is happening no matter what. And yeah, just to be grateful for the little things.
Yeah, it's that old thing, which is grant me the wisdom to understand the things I can't control, understand the things I can't, and to have the wisdom to know the difference between the two.
Yes. Thank you so much again for being here. This conversation was so powerful because it literally reframes acceptance completely. So it's not a weakness, it's not quitting, but it's more of a clarity. So Paul Crick's work through the GRACE framework is helping leaders and teams create healthier, more sustainable ways to grow and perform. So again, Paul, thank you so much for being here and for your work. And thank you to everyone listening. We'll make sure to have Paul's information in the show notes and his website and his Substack so you guys can check out more of his work and contact him. So thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye for now.